All right, let's dive into the incredible story of Ireland. We're going on an epic journey through a nation that was really born from myth, shaped by countless invasions, and in the end, defined by its long and fiery struggle for freedom.
You see, Ireland's story doesn't start in history books. It starts with stone. Structures like this are actually older than the pyramids in Egypt. They're this silent, powerful testament to the island's very first inhabitants. But they also mark the beginning of a theme that you'll see again and again throughout Irish history. Wave after wave of new people arriving, each leaving their own mark and shaping the very soul of the country.
So, to really get a handle on Ireland, we have to go way, way back to the very beginning, a time where history and pure myth are almost impossible to pull apart.
When you look at early Ireland, you've basically got two competing origin stories. One of them is the stuff of legend. It's from a text called the Book of Invasions, and it tells these amazing tales of magical peoples, like the almost godlike Tuatha Dé Danann. And then you have the other story, the one archaeologists tell us, a story of Stone Age hunters and later, Neolithic farmers, the very people who built those incredible tombs we can still see today.
Next up are the people who would really define Ireland for 1,000 years, the Celts. When they arrived from Central Europe, they didn't conquer with huge armies. No, they conquered with culture. Their art, their social structure, their language, it just spread across the entire island, creating this shared identity where there was absolutely no political unity.
So what did this Celtic Ireland actually look like? Well, imagine a patchwork quilt of about 150 mini-kingdoms. Each one was called a tooth, and each one had its own king, which created this very fluid, decentralized society built on farming. And get this, the cow was, and I'm not kidding, literally the unit of currency.
This decentralized Ireland was about to enter a completely new era. It was about to become a beacon of light for all of Europe, a light that would soon be threatened by fierce invaders from the sea.
So in the 5th century, a brand new force arrives, Christianity, brought over by people like the famous Saint Patrick. Now this wasn't a military conquest at all, it was a spiritual one. And it created this really unique form of Christianity that wasn't centered in cities, but in these incredibly powerful rural monasteries. And this is what kicks off Ireland's golden age. I mean, think about it. While the rest of Europe was pretty much plunged into chaos after the fall of the Roman Empire, Irish monasteries became these vibrant centers of learning. Monks were creating stunningly beautiful art like illuminated manuscripts, and they were traveling all across the continent, founding new monasteries, and basically preserving the knowledge of Western civilization.
But, of course, the Golden Age was shattered. Around 800 AD, Viking longships started appearing on the horizon, and for centuries they raided the wealthy monasteries. The Vikings weren't just raiders, though. They were also traders who founded some of Ireland's first cities, like Dublin. Their power was finally broken in 1014 by the Irish High King Brian Boru at the famous Battle of Clontarf.
You'd think the end of the Viking era would bring lasting peace, right? Nope. In fact, it just set the stage for probably the most consequential invasion in Irish history, one that would tie the island's fate to England for the next 800 years. And here's the crucial part. The Normans didn't just show up as a conquering army. They were actually invited by an exiled Irish king who wanted help getting his throne back. But once they were in, they decided to stay. By 1171, their king, Henry II of England, showed up and was declared overlord of Ireland. And that marks the official start of English political control. But then, something absolutely fascinating happened. Over the next few centuries, these Norman settlers started to, well, go native. They adopted the Irish language, Irish laws, Irish customs. They intermarried. They became, as the famous saying goes, more Irish than the Irish themselves, completely blurring that line between the colonizer and the colonized. This blending of cultures, however, was seen as a huge threat by the English crown. And in the 16th century, a new, far more brutal phase of conquest began, one that would introduce religion as a devastating new source of conflict. The Tudor monarchs launched what was basically a full reconquest. Henry VIII declared himself King of Ireland and went about systematically destroying the old Gaelic political system. But the real game changer was the English Reformation. Suddenly, Protestantism was being forced on a deeply Catholic island. This was really cemented by the plantation of Ulster, where land was seized from the Irish and given to Protestant settlers from England and Scotland.
All of this conflict and tension just kept building and building until it finally exploded in a single battle that would decide Ireland's fate for centuries to come. In 1690, two rival English kings fought for the throne, but they fought it out on Irish soil. The Catholic James II, backed by the Irish, against the Protestant William of Orange.
William's victory at the Battle of the Boyne was absolutely decisive. It crushed Catholic hopes and cemented the power of a new Protestant ruling class, which became known as the Protestant ascendancy. For the next century and more, the vast Catholic majority was stripped of its land, its power, and even its basic civil rights under a harsh system of laws.
Now we move into the 19th century, which would bring Ireland's greatest tragedy. But paradoxically, from the absolute depths of that suffering, modern Irish nationalism would be born.
The first real crack in the ascendancy's power came from a man named Daniel O'Connell. They called him the Liberator. Through a massive movement of peaceful protest, he won Catholic Emancipation in 1829. This restored political rights and showed, for the very first time, the immense power of the mobilized Catholic majority.
By 1841, Ireland's population had swelled to over 8 million people. But it was a population living on a knife's edge, dangerously, incredibly dependent on a single food source, the potato.
And then, disaster struck. Starting in 1845, a mysterious blight just wiped out the potato crop year after year. By 1851, the population had plummeted by over 2 million people.
1 million people died of starvation and disease. Another million were forced to emigrate, creating this huge Irish diaspora all around the world. The Great Famine was a profound national trauma. It burned a deep, lasting resentment against a British government that was seen as completely indifferent, and it fueled an unstoppable desire for independence.
All of that post-famine anger had to go somewhere. It got channeled into a whole variety of movements, all of them pushing for more freedom, and all of them leading, eventually, to the decision to fight for it.
You can really see the road to revolution having several paths that were all interconnected. Politically, you had leaders like Charles Stewart Parnell fighting for home rule in the British Parliament. Economically, the Land League fought a grassroots war to win back land ownership for Irish tenants. Culturally, movements like the Gaelic League worked to revive the Irish language and native sports, rebuilding a distinct national identity. And simmering just beneath it all was the secret Irish Republican Brotherhood, who believed that none of this was enough, that only an armed rebellion could ever achieve true independence.
So by the early 20th century, all the pieces were in place. A new national consciousness had been built through politics, land reform, and a cultural rebirth. A nation had been imagined. The final question was, could it be forged in the fire of rebellion?